If you're someone who wishes they could relive experiences from the past because they're so beautiful or filled with joy, or someone who is filled with regret or worry about bad things that have happened in your past, then this episode is for you. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Pastor Tim Westermeyer here, Senior Pastor of St. Philip the Deacon in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. Good to be with you as always. I just spent the last 45 minutes or so talking to Tim behind the camera about some of the events going on in my life, my family's life right now. I've talked about these over the last few weeks, but I literally just got back the day we are taping this from New York, where we dropped our youngest. No, we didn't drop him off. That was a few episodes ago. You can watch this one if you're interested. We went back out to visit our youngest son, who has now completed basic training at West Point and, in fact, is now officially a member of the Corps of Cadets. And actually, that informs what I want to talk about today. Before I get to that, though, can I just say thank you to those of you who sent me a card or a handwritten letter based on the last episode about those handwritten letters. I was so grateful to get those, so you know who you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will now sound a little going contrarian to what I talked about last time, and just remind you, though, that if you appreciate what you're hearing in these episodes, if you think other people might also appreciate them, one of the ways you can spread news about this is by actually commenting or liking on the platform you're watching this on, either YouTube or Facebook. I love getting handwritten cards in the mail. I do, and they're very special. See the last episode. But this platform is set up to encourage participation through interaction, if that makes sense. So if you would like to respond, feel free to do that below, as always. All right, back to this trip out to New York. So what I want to talk about today is the fact that represents for me and my wife, Amy, a new chapter, that namely dropping off our youngest child effectively at college, represents a new chapter in our life. And most people, we would talk about this period of life as being empty nesters. Our situation's a little different because we have our daughter, Sarah, who has special needs and still lives with us. But we've spent our oldest son is 26 this year, I guess. We've spent the last 26 years raising 4 children. That's been our primary focus. And yes, I love my job and I'm deeply committed to it. And Amy is invested in all kinds of things, both professionally and otherwise. But our primary focus has been raising our children. And now we're sort of kind of done with that. Our 3 boys are out of the house. The house feels a little empty. I'm sure many of you listening to this can understand that. And that has me thinking, that means we've turned the page in a chapter of our lives, I guess. And part of what happens at those transition moments, I think, is that we look back on the past a little wistfully and we think, oh, how did that go so quickly? I wish I could have my kids back as whatever age, 5 or 8 or 10 years old, just for a little while. And one of the things that helps me at moments of transition like this think about that is recognizing that as Christians, I think this is a fair way to talk about it. We live in space and time, which sounds like a truism. It sounds like, well, duh, of course we do. But that is not as obvious as it might sound from the perspective of God, who does not live in space and time, but lives in eternity, which is not simply time extended infinitely. We've talked about this maybe before, but rather is sort of something outside of time entirely, which means that someday when we meet God face to face, I believe, we will be given back all of the beautiful moments of the past that we miss and that we're so anxious to hold on to, which, as I think about it, allows me to let go of those a little easier. So I hope that makes sense. As we look at the past, if there are things from your past that you think, boy, that was a beautiful, wonderful time, I wish I could relive that, I think you can trust that one day you will once again experience not only that joy, that pleasure, that event, but all of the beautiful things that have ever happened to you. Now, there's a flip side to that. What if you look back on your past and you're filled with sadness? or regret. That's another kind of problem for us as we look ahead to the future, because something is sort of holding us down from the past. And on that front, if that's how you think, or if that's something that's impacting your life today, I would remind you of a quote from J.R.R. Tolkien, one of C.S. Lewis's friends, but who was an amazing guy in his own right, not just because he knew C.S. Lewis. Here's what he said. The birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus means that one day everything sad will come untrue. Isn't that beautiful? The birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus means that one day everything sad will come untrue. And that's simply another way of talking about someday when we are with God face to face, all of the challenges, all of the difficulties, all of the pain, all of the sadness, it will be as if it never happened. And we will simply be in the eternal bliss, the eternal presence, the eternal love of God. So whether you look to the past with longing, oh, I wish I could get back to that time, or whether you look to the past with regret and you think, oh, I wish I could undo that, or I wish that had never happened. The message I have for us today, I guess, is one day when we see God face to face, all of that will either be given back to us, the longing we have for it, or it will be stripped away, the regret, which means we can look to the future with hope and excitement and peace and joy. And because we can do that, my dear friends, it means we can live more fully today in the presence of those around us, doing what God is inviting us to do without wishing we were somewhere in the past or running away from the past. I hope that makes sense. As I indicated earlier, and as I say every episode, if you are interested in sharing your own thoughts about this, I'd love to hear what they are, and I know other people would as well. And if you're experiencing some kind of transition in your life right now, I'll be keeping you in my prayers. As always, be well, stay in touch, and God bless.